All right, everyone, Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, the meme review, software releases, the websites by plebes. We've got it all. Drop us a like and subscribe. All right, we're going to the numbers. Here we go. Clock Moody Dashboard. Like it. Good energy on that one. Okay, so block height right now, 667,824. Current Bitcoin price, 32,795. Chain rewrite days, 589. Total lightning capacity, 1,055.20 BTC. And the Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 5.06%. No Satoshi for us today.
No Satoshi, but he half clucked. He half clucked out of sadness. I don't know if you guys heard it, but it was a little cluck. It was a little cluck. But it was there. For anyone who's confused, Satoshi, the Bitcoin chicken, only clucks when the price of Bitcoin reaches an all-time high. So that's not today, but very soon. Phil, that being said, it's time for
the daily fail. Going a bit of a different direction here on our daily fail. You know, we don't usually have people from the traditional finance world, you know, on our daily fails. Not too often. Usually it's, you know, a bunch of shitcoiners and stuff like that and people with bad takes. So yeah, today we've got Lloyd Blankfein. If I were a regulator, I would be kind of hyperventilating at the success of it at the moment. And I'd be arming myself to deal with it. Okay, so let's see. You
also mentioned the other main phenomenon on Wall Street right now, which seems to be Bitcoin, which seems to be going mainstream. You have big firms now getting involved in ways that they didn't. Have your views either evolved or changed around the future of Bitcoin and crypto?
Look, I've always been, I'm not, it could work. It could work. But really, at the end of the day, a currency is supposed to accomplish a couple of things. It's supposed to be a medium of exchange and a store of value. It's a store of value that can move 10% in a day. That if you lose the code or you lose the slip of paper, it's lost forever. Or if somebody takes it from you, how will you know? So it's, the store of value element's a little bit tough. And as a medium of exchange, here's a problem. You don't know whether or not you're paying the North Koreans or Al Qaeda or the Revolutionary Guard. And at the end of the day,
all right, we're going to have the link to the whole video in the show notes. I mean, we don't need to watch the whole thing. It's 2 minutes of, Lloyd not understanding Bitcoin and pretending that there's this narrative that makes it not work. Okay. So first of all, you don't go through all the stages of becoming, becoming the world's base store of value instantly. It goes through different stages. Bitcoin goes through different stages, and that's exactly what's happening as we grow. So that narrative of his is just totally... it's just wrong, right? Like it's not actually taking into account the entire long view. It's taking into account this, myopic little moment and deciding that this moment is everything about Bitcoin that there ever will be. The other thing is this whole business about, you don't know whether you're paying the Koreans or Al Qaeda or all this stuff. I'm really sorry, but like if you're doing a transaction with somebody else, so first of all, you have no idea where your US dollars were before. I mean, like if you sat there and got cash from a cash register, you have no idea where that cash came from. And if you go pay that cash to somebody else, you don't know that they're not going to use that money to go buy a gun and kill their family with it or something. It's just such ridiculous stuff. Like they try to make up these ideas that will scare you out of it. But in the meantime, they're sitting there and they're buying it. So like we just had like we're talking, I think later we're going to talk about Harvard maybe that's been buying some Bitcoin. So I mean, like, look, okay, there's serious institutions doing their homework, looking into it, and this guy's coming in and looking like a clown.
Phil, that was like watching the Bitcoin asteroid just coming down, and then all these bankers are just like dinosaurs with their tiny little T-Rex hands, bitching about Bitcoin, but they can't do anything about it. That's literally what it is, right? You can't stop that asteroid, that orange asteroid just coming down and, freeing the world, right? I guess that's a way to put it. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the daily meme review.
All right, everybody. This meme was brought to us by Jose_S_Bam. And this was a request. If you guys want us to rate your memes, go check out the link description. There's our Telegram group. Jump in there and just post your memes. We'll rate them. I promise you. We'll get to them. Anyways, let's rate the meme. Dude. Okay, man. Yeah. Original, great. I'm going to give that a solid 9. What about you, Phil?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 8.
Okay,
I thought it was...
Why do you give it an 8? Why do you give it an 8?
Okay, so I totally loved it. Made me laugh. It's really, you know what? It's an interesting kind of meme, right? Because it could be seen in two ways. It could be seen as an insider meme, and it could also be seen as a good way to like give people a really quick picture of what's really happening. I did really like the person that they chose for Ethereum, because that really does kind of sum up the gigantic circus of, you know, shitty technology that's pretended to be innovation. So
absolutely, it's just like this would sound good on paper, but in reality, it's what that meme does, right? It perfectly represents it. Anyways, next meme is brought to us by Greg, the meme lord. Maybe Mr. Salty profile is so salty because his fund can't beat the hurdle rate. Man, hilarious logic. I guess they're talking about different markets. Berkshire Hathaway in the back. Bro, okay. Very good. Very good. Phil, I'm going to give that a 10 from me, man. It was a perfect meme. What about you?
All right. I'm going with the elusive score of 9.2.
Why'd you give it a 9.2? Why not a 10?
Why not a 10? Okay. So as Greg will know, if you didn't listen to that podcast, then you don't know why he's picking on Professor Plum or whatever his name is. Yeah. So, or Mr. Salty or whatever it is. I just, it's that meme is like very specific to that conversation, I think.
It definitely is in the description.
It is and it's not.
In the description, but if you just look at the meme itself without the description, it stands on its own 2 feet.
It does.
So
maybe it's because there was writing. Maybe if it was just a picture.
I think you're just picking on Greg.
He's getting a 9.2.
He's getting a 9.2. Those are solid scores. Those are solid scores.
Suffering or something.
Exactly. Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by Crypto Cloaks.
All right, everybody. The news for today, Phil, I thought this was awesome, and it just kind of confirms everything that we've been saying, right? Is that these big corporations, these institutions, they want to put their money in the hardest asset and the hardest, forgive me guys, the hardest crypto asset. I cringe saying that, but to compare with the others, I guess that's the best word you could use. But the headline speaks for itself. Bitcoin made up 97% of total crypto inflows in 2021. Now, if you look at the actual numbers, right, over here, it says increasing from an average of 2.2 billion in 2020 to 12.3 billion this year alone. That's absolutely crazy. And if you compare that to the amount of inflows that Ethereum saw, Ethereum only saw 34 million in the past week. So Bitcoin blows it out of the water. Apparently, they have 97% of the total inflows compared to all the other shit coins. Phil, like anyone that says all these other coins are stores of value, the hash rate and this, the actual real money going in just paints a whole different story. You could say that, your shitcoin does this, your shitcoin does that, your shitcoin does all these things. But when you look at the data, everyone just wants one. And that's Bitcoin. What are your thoughts?
That's huge. I did not see that article before you just posted it. So that is wow. I mean, look, at the end of the day, people can go and gamble. I saw there was like some stupid DeFi ad on that thing. Okay, like so they're sitting there telling you how great Bitcoin is, but at the same time they're shilling you some crap, so that you can lose your money. Look. You need to ask yourself, and this is the key. You always need to ask yourself, why is all of the money that is and the value that is currently being stored in Bitcoin going to suddenly move to a completely different coin? And the reality is that it's just not. Nope. Okay? Value accrues like this because it plans to park there. Okay. It figured out where the best spot was, and it's decided it's taking it, and that is BTC. BTC is absolutely the best spot to park. So why would you go anywhere else? And the other thing is that we shouldn't compare all the other ones. Like they are no comparison. Bitcoin does not compete with shitcoins. Anybody that sits there and thinks that Bitcoin competes with shitcoins, they don't. There's corporations behind those things. There's central points of failure. Those things are, they're not they're not decentralized. A lot of them are just simply, run on local servers, and there's just a few nodes. At the end of the day, they are not the same as Bitcoin. Bitcoin does not compete with shitcoins.
Absolutely. It's on a whole different class of their own. It's even like a crime saying that Bitcoin is a crypto, because it's really not. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's that simple. Absolutely right, Phil. And, speaking of the faults of centralization, Phil, you covered this a little bit earlier about, the dinosaur of Goldman Sachs, right? Basically, bitching about Bitcoin. And then it looks like the Bank of England, right? This guy's the actual governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, warns that Bitcoin days are numbered. It's like the dinosaurs screaming at the asteroid. They can't do anything about it. And the reason they can't do anything about it is because Bitcoin is decentralized, right? And if it was centralized, what would happen? Like all the mainstream media, all the propaganda arms would just completely, bitch, come out with propaganda about how it's used for far-right terrorists, used for this and this and that. And if they happen to be able to convince the regulators, they'll shut down the app like they did Parler a couple weeks ago. They'll be able to censor what's going on. But with Bitcoin, they can't do that. And we always say that Bitcoin is uncensorable. Let me give you an example. This person sent a transaction, and look what they put in the OP return data. They put Taiwan is an independent nation, and they put that, Phil, because this is forever going to stay in the Bitcoin blockchain. Anybody that was running a node and has a full copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, they will forever have this message. This message is immortal, even though China completely hates when other countries do this because they have a claim on Taiwan. So this is a form of free speech against speech that a particular very big country wants to censor. This is how powerful Bitcoin is. And no matter what, this will never go away. This will always stay on the Bitcoin blockchain. And for anyone that doesn't know, you can, on Bitcoin Core, on the actual software, you can write a message in the OP return data as a hexadecimal. I'll pop up more information about it, but it's just super cool that this person, basically stood up for Taiwan. So, Phil, what are your thoughts on this censorship, on this propaganda from these old dinosaur bankers, and the New York Times going after now Telegram because they don't like what people are saying on there? What are your thoughts on all this?
So when they make threats like this without Bitcoin, right? So before there was Bitcoin, they'd make a threat like this to a company, and they say, so-and-so company, their days are numbered. And invariably their days were numbered, or somehow they'd manage to pull themselves by their bootstraps and get out of it. But with Bitcoin, that comment, it means less than nothing. No one gives a shit. Bitcoin's going to continue to churn out blocks. It doesn't care what Andrew Bailey?
Yeah.
I don't even know what his last name is. Anyways, it doesn't care what this guy thinks. So all right. And if you read the article, it sits there and talks about, cryptocurrencies and the technology is going to get better and this and that. You know what? People want to have a predictable store of value. They want to make sure that the government isn't just going to inflate it all away. So it makes no difference how much better anybody makes any of the technology. None of that is required for the base layer of Bitcoin to do its work.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's that. So again, this is one of those shitcoining narratives, right? It's the tech narrative. There's always these narratives that come back. The tech narrative, the unit bias.
You're exactly right. And
same thing.
That narrative would be terrible for Bitcoin. The narrative of move fast, break things. You don't want your money moving fast and breaking things. You want it to be reliable, trustworthy, and immutable. And that's why you pick Bitcoin over all these other all these other shit coins, because Bitcoin is the most immutable. And that block message, that message that was included in that transaction is living proof of that, of that uncensorability, you know? So I completely agree, Phil. Phil, there was a software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. All right, it looks like we've got Hexa Wallet version 1.4.1 that was released, and that is down below in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. Guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button. If you loved it, subscribe. And of course, we will see you tomorrow for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.